cast away. Alienated from the aims of that inventor in disguise. Ideas ahead of time, dismissed with narrow eyes. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talking about 0 point, the points lost on them. Kind of structures crumbling from the same old sim. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor under injustice, burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish, wanting shed boys. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't employ. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
All right, welcome, and welcome back to the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices. Ladies and gentlemen, forbidden science enthusiasts, skeptical engineers, coil winding fanatics, and the poor souls who clicked this thinking it was a documentary on recycling. Welcome to the Ultimate Recap Friday. It's going to be a big one, okay? So tonight, I'm going to take you on a journey. From my very first day of researching the rodent coils, all the way to our recent discoveries with the lightning thief circuit, synthetic AC and the resonant pulsed waveform theory, and my newest work on dipole preservation theory. We'll have a full breakdown of all the data we recorded this week, and we'll also have a live interactive mini lab with a 200-watt stereo amp. Now, I haven't tested the amp. I know it turns on. Hopefully, it doesn't have like a blown fuse or something, and we still use one of the channels for our Wattman reduction and see if we can finally synchronize that neodymium sphere with the frequency of the electromagnetic field generated by the coil. So this episode is basically the entire Beneficence TV history compressed into one epic, cinematic, high-voltage journey for you guys to enjoy. Newbies and veterans alike. So let me start from the beginning. Because none of this, not the experiments, not the lightning thief modification, not the dipole preservation theory, none of it makes any kind of sense unless you know how I got here. So this whole journey didn't start because I felt some magical intuition about vortex-based mathematics or plasma physics or even a unification theory. No, none of those connections came until much later. It started with something much simpler. I saw two technologies that were making a lot of noise online. The first was the rodent coil and vortex-based mathematics. And the second was Malcolm Bendel's revolutionary thunderstorm generator. Now, at the time, I didn't think they were connected. I didn't even understand the underlying physics of either device. But they were the two things that showed real promise regarding replicating a free energy device for independent verification. So I thought, if any of this is real, these are probably two of the easiest that I can replicate and test. And that's genuinely where I started. So I wanted something buildable, something to experiment with, something to test. Something tangible and real, not just a theoretical rabbit hole like most of us wind up in these free energy circles. So there then came the spark that lit the fuse. I stumbled upon Daniel Nunez's lecture at the Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference, something that you can find on YouTube currently if you search around. One of the only surviving videos of his early ABHA coil days. That video was turning point for me, right? Because he showed step-up transformation of voltage with just a 1-to-1 ratio of coils, which is very unusual. That's not supposed to happen. He explained endothermic reactions when the coil was resonating in open circuit mode, meaning it actually gets colder on the inside of the tore, where the magnetic flux is condensed and contained. The magnetic monopole detection he expressed said it was useful for driving a magnetic rotary. Now, if anybody has experimented with driving a magnetic rotary with a pulsed field, normally you have alternating fields, north and south, and you have to deal with that in a very specific timed fashion. Having one pole kind of eases that and allows you to drive that rotary a lot easier without the resistance of the second opposing pole. So that was very, very interesting to me. He demonstrated that he got accelerated plant growth with the introduction of magnetic fields of certain frequencies with this coil. He expressed a net energy gain from simple setups and easy to replicate circuits. This is what got me interested. It wasn't some, device with extremely high tolerances that was really hard to replicate. This coil kind of does all the heavy work for you. And this isn't even half of the discoveries Nunez listed, okay? So this is just the start. And this got me really, really intrigued. But it seemed nobody was giving it any kind of attention, not like it deserved. So I said, fine, if nobody else will rebuild this thing and try it for themselves, I will. Unfortunately, when I was ready to replicate his work, most of his videos, schematics, and explanations were gone. He had many fans, and they actually, fortunately, were the reasons why I was able to recover some of that information. He had many fans who referenced hundreds of videos that he had that were suddenly no longer available on either his website or YouTube. And he had been inactive for quite some time on social media, just stopped posting, stopped updating, and all his videos were gone. So I attempted to piece together this information with the help of the internet and some of my audience and colleagues alike. But this was an era of mistakes. Okay, this is a very big learning process. There's a steep learning curve for me, especially because I have no formal training in this stuff. I had to learn everything from the ground up, basically teaching myself while I, after a certain period, I decided to actually go to school and learn more about conventional electrodynamic theory. But that didn't come till after I actually started these projects. So let me tell you how chaotic this phase of mistakes actually was. We had miswired things, misread meters, misinterpreted scope readings. We blew components constantly. I confused polarity sometimes. We swapped windings on accident. And I performed a few acts of electrical engineering that absolutely violated the Geneva Convention. So, I made every rookie mistake possible. But, something inside me kept saying, push forward. There's something here. And that's when Michel Morel, a mentor and lab partner of mine, stepped in. So Michel had the experience, the technical discipline, and the eye to look at my circuit, to look at my setup, and calmly say, Ben, you do realize you're measuring the current wrong, don't you? And this just broke me. But despite this colossal mistake, I continued to push forward with Michel's help. His technical expertise in this area helped me get the ABHA excitation circuit tuned and singing. The Nunez-style closed circuit Joule thief variation with a Michel Morel twist is singing and purring in the background of our setting here. You can see the 40-watt panel lighting brightly off of a 12-volt 20-amp-hour battery. So when we got this